Everyone for joining today to this live. I think you're going to get a lot of strategic help. I'm Dr. Tamara Relis, co-founder here at Relislaw Visa Immigration Law Firm. As both an attorney and a former US law professor and an immigrant myself, I have helped thousands of families, professionals, and survivors navigate the US immigration system successfully, even after they come to us with denials or delays. Today, we'll discuss how to go from your temporary visa to permanent status, building a strategy for your US future. Most people are applying for visas, and I'm going to just focus, first of all, on the core issues. So most people are applying for US visas one step at a time without understanding how each stage affects the next. The biggest issue is short-term visas that unintentionally block future green card eligibility. So very important tactics for you to absorb. It relate to the fact that success in immigration requires a plan ahead, a strategy for future application in many, many cases. Okay, and those are things that you need to implement in your plan. You need to align all of these as follows. Your intention, what it is that you're looking for, what it is that you want in terms of the end goal, the end application. Your status history inside the United States. Your employment or investment activity during your time in the United States. Your evidence of achievements while you're in the United States and also before. Things need to be well documented. Your family relationships, your travel patterns, and your financial documentation. So all of these things are things that you are really needing to be thinking about and being sort of like a private investigator, but an evidence collector of building and documenting and keeping copies of many of these items step by step, week by week, month by month, to be building up a strong case. Of course, people come for immigration help and they don't know any of that, and we work with them to build that for them. But these are things that are sometimes things that happened way back in the past that had you have known, you would have been better prepared. The US immigration system favors applicants who build a consistent history, a consistent story, and a progressive trajectory, something that is progressing towards the things that they're looking for. So staying on a temporary visa for years and years without a plan to transition to a green card leads people to many of these problems that they are facing. Also, other problems that people face when they don't have this strategy in mind and the plan and the setting it out step by step. A lot of people have a problem in that they wrongly believe that all temporary visas, or many of them, lead to permanent options, and many do not, depending on what the situation is. Another problem that people face is not having a strategic plan and following it on the day-to-day, as I mentioned, including evidence over time. And so, again, I'm hammering this in because it's so important for you. You need to be documenting your achievements, your history, your relationships, both at work and personally. If we're talking about employment visas, or if you want to set up a company and have a business investor visa, if you're eligible, you need to be documenting the specifics of every role and every task that you have had. So that's another very, very important factor. You also want to be documenting milestones when big achievements happen, okay, or new job roles, and when that role completed or when that task completed and what it is you achieved and how you affected the field. Okay, what was your impact on the field, not just for your employer, but for the field at large? And these are things that can be documented if people have foresight, have the knowledge, and if they're working with the immigration team guidance, that's of course going to be the maximum for them. But really, you need to be thinking about that and working on this from the get-go. Okay, from whenever you're thinking, yes, I want to be applying for a green card. I want to spend my life here. I want to spend my career here. I want to build my family here. So another problem that people are facing because they are not knowing this and not thinking about it in advance relate to immigration contradictions. Okay, those are things where you're applying for one thing, saying for one thing, but then in the past you had said other things, you had done other things. Another problem that people face relates to unauthorized employment. That means even if your employment authorized for a particular job, that's fine, but make sure you are only working in what your particular visa allows you to. You cannot be working in something else without notifying the government and getting their okay. Another issue that people face relates to gaps in their status. While they were in status, if there's a time that they were not, and not in what is called authorized stay, that's a problem. It could be a surmountable problem we can fix. It depends on your particular case situation. And there are different ways of fixing things if they're fixable. Again, you need advice in advance. Another thing for anything to do with jobs, getting green cards through employment, through your own company, through being a senior manager, is to do with your job titles and documenting all the things that you're doing, showing progression. So that is something, again, that you want to be thinking about in advance and building towards it. Likewise, if you have a particular visa that or even if you're on a student visa and you have work authorized, you need to make sure whatever visa you're on, that owning a business, if you set up a business, which many people, everybody can do it, make sure that it doesn't conflict with your current visa rules. So that relates to not the setting up of the business, but things that you are allowed and not allowed to do after, before an accurate visa has been awarded to you. Another problem that people have, which comes to us quite a lot, is that they rely on the wrong visa category based on myths, things they see on social media, which may not be correct or may not match exactly their situation, or poor advice from other people that they know. Likewise, people face problems if they move ahead with marriages, with employment, with investment decisions for businesses, without analyzing first what are the immigration consequences. And that's really key. As I said, it's planning in advance and having that foresight, and then making your strategy and building on that strategy day to day, week to week, month to month. So that by the time you're ready to prepare an application, you have tons of evidence that can be very helpful, that you can build on more, and you also will have had time to reflect on that evidence. So before choosing any temporary non-immigrant visa, so that can be an F1 student visa, a J1 visa, if you come in on a tourist visa and then you want, you have situations changing and you want to get another one and then plan to apply for adjustment of your status. If you invest in a company, like for example, any small business, let's say for an E2 visa, or if you're a person of extraordinary ability, an O1 visa, or being on an H1B visa, any of those, you need to be planning ahead of what the next step is and what's needed for that next visa, so that you're ready and prepared with an abundance of evidence that, once you get immigration help and guidance, you may be building on it, but you have a lot of the things that you may not think of when it's all a big rush, coming to a deadline, even a few months, because for the very large visas, it takes really many hours and long time to prepare everything. Also, people run into difficulties in their applications and they should not have, if they would have had foresight and got advice before changing their employers, changing their job titles, their roles, what they do in their jobs, or new business ownership. Okay. Also, when you plan to marry, if you marry, of course, for love, to make a life together, or to adjust your status through a spouse, right? Applying through a green card through a spousal petition. Various factors come into that. You need to get advice to understand how that's going to affect you, particularly if your spouse themselves is not a US citizen, but is currently a permanent resident. Very, very important to know in advance and to plan in advance. If you do get into any criminal issues, you must get immigration help before accepting any criminal. Okay, even for the lowest offense. Okay, even minor ones, depending perceive as minor ones, can be green cards or citizenship paths for you. So of course, you always need to get immigration advice, experienced ones, before doing anything if you happen to be involved in the criminal law system. Also, people get into trouble. Another problem is when they apply for naturalization, for citizenship. If they had past immigration violations, whatever violations of the visas that they were on, or anything that was false claims, or anything that was said in any immigration interview or signed for, whether you say you read it or didn't, or saw it or didn't. If you signed for something, sign on any application, you're responsible for what's in there. Also, people get into trouble when they apply for the citizenship without assistance, without guidance, if they had long periods abroad, or even only short periods, but many. Another area where you want to have a plan in advance when you're on a temporary visa, non-immigrant visa, is when you are downsizing your business or selling a business that supports an immigration category. So all of these are things, and these are just some of the things that you need to be thinking of in advance and getting immigration help and guidance well in advance before making any of these decisions. So I'm now going to move this live and talk to you a little bit about changes that have been going on in the last 3 months under the current administration in relation to immigration applications, all of them. So there has been increased scrutiny, okay, much deeper looking at status, at people maintaining their status, and that's especially for applicants who are transitioning from a temporary non-immigrant visa, right, like a student visa, like a H-1B visa, like an O-1 visa, to permanent residence, applying for immigrant visas that will lead you then to apply for a green card. There has been stricter review of your travel patterns and whether they conflict with what you claim to be immigrant intent, particularly when you're applying for your citizenship. And again, you want to get that advice before you start making long trips to protect and preserve your situation. And that's also even for green card holders who are then looking for citizenship. You want to get assistance and advice well in advance of any long trips, for sure, and also if you're planning many short trips. There has been also recently more aggressive evaluation of public charge indicators. Okay, that relates to taking monies from the government and the government assessing that you will be a risk to the government for having claimed, various government benefits, and this is considered very seriously in any application for permanent residence. So this can affect your adjustment of status, you're changing to a legal permanent resident application, and family-based cases. In addition, there have been higher standards, and of course, I get updates from my organization, AILA, the American Immigration Lawyers Association, and we are seeing also there are higher standards for judging people's credibility, their believability, and their consistency within all of the applications they have ever made to the US government. resulting in more requests for evidence and more NOIDs, notices of intention to deny, right away. So they're looking at those things when career timelines or love timelines or business data do not logically connect. There also has been more focus on fraud detection. There always has been, but even more so with marriages, checking what is called bona fides of your marriage, that you're married for love to make a life together, and the abundance of proof that they're looking for. People are coming here like day after day after day, notices of intention to deny, or notices of what is called a Stokes interview, which means that there's a disbelief, which are true marriages, which I believe are true marriages, but they didn't prepare in advance. They didn't have the right advice. And so they're already on a track of great danger and risk if that next one, which is much harder of an interview to pass, doesn't go well. Okay, big risk, like getting a notice to appear in removal court if that doesn't go well. Also, there's greater focus on fraud detection to do with employment roles, in terms of job description, and making sure that they matched whatever the person is actually allowed to do based on whatever application was made in the past for that job work authorization. Also, sources of investment funds. If you're starting a business, let's say under the E2 business program, which we do many of, where do you get the money from? How, and documenting it. So these are greater scrutiny. So what's happening now under all of these changes has resulted in people being afraid to file a case, even if they have a good case and a strong case, because of the enforcement surges that they're seeing on social media and on the news. And this is very, very sad, because this is tragically leading people to miss opportunities. So you may be missing opportunities for status in the United States, safety in the United States, or without filing, it can cause you to have unlawful presence accumulation, which may or may not be fixable without you leaving the country for extended periods of time and no guarantee to be able to get back in. So you shouldn't fear filing if you have been assessed by experienced immigration counsel for having what is called a meritorious case, a strong case. So now in this third section of the live, I'm going to just give you some examples, okay? So you see how these things play out. A skilled professional used an O1 visa to enter the United States. O1 visas for individuals of extraordinary ability, very top of their field, whatever the field is. But the person did not track their achievements while they were on the O1 visa, and not really in-depth tracking, looking and searching and collecting evidence for all of the things that are needed for the next stage to get them a green card, applying for the EB1 visa. And so when they prepared and came, and come for immigration assistance afterwards, gaps in documentation show that this is basically going to block an upgrade, and therefore strengthening evidence over time. That's having that information in advance. Your publications about you and your work and anything that you were involved in, that you have proof that you were. Media coverage, which again takes time, and you wanted to show that this is media coverage about you and your work and your achievements, not just done at the last minute before you prepare your immigration application. People are doing that, but it's much stronger to system. Wasn't approval of pathway. Protect their. So, for example, in another case, an employee on a work visa had multiple role changes, legal updates, and tried to apply job description, aligning the career from one step to the next in accordance with what is in the government regulations and what they're looking for. Is somebody with us. So somebody without status, due to fear of applying for a one. Okay, so I'm going to, I think there was a tech issue. Hopefully you're hearing me better now. So I'm going to talk about some case studies that apply all of these things that are going on now, but also showing how people can surmount many of the problems that they think aren't fixable and that they have no chance, which isn't correct in many cases, as long as you have a very full case evaluation. So I'm going to give you some examples of people on temporary visas, non-immigrant visas, going to green card growth, right, to become a personal permanent resident. And I'm going to also talk about people that have no status and how in some cases, and I'll give you some examples of people that got a green card, even though they had no status or came in secretly. So of course, it depends on your actual case situation, but I'm going to give you three that are examples of reality that's happening, okay, now also. So when we talk about non-immigrant status, I'm going to start with someone who came in or was here in the United States and changed to a visa for people of extraordinary ability, the top, say, 10% of their field, whatever their field is, art, science, business, anything, as an O1 visa holder. And so somebody used their O1 to enter the United States, and worked in their O1, and indeed was a person of high achievement and top of the field. But they didn't track on the day to day their achievements, the different jobs, the impact they had, the accolades that they got, even on the day to day, week to week. And so later, when they said, well, now I've achieved all these things on my O1 visa, I want to apply for a green card so that I can have stability for myself and my family. There were gaps in the documentation. And so that they come in and they're given all this information, but they come in late. And so somebody who had done that and tried elsewhere, or on their own, whatever I mean, you should never try those hard visas on your own anyways. That's absolutely the case. You don't want to have, any kind of denial that is not warranted. So the secret is to strengthen your evidence over time, well before you're ready to make your application, to file your application. And that means seeking immigration valuable experience. Um, so, an em- so an employee, um, without, sorry, so person with, um, sorry, I'm getting an echo. Okay, I think you're okay. Um, the person with the O1 visa, having the gaps, had to spend a lot of time to correct it and to reflect, and probably not remembering everything that they have done and achieved. And very important, the impact on the field, not just the impact on various employers and their businesses and how it, gave them financial benefits and critical acclaim, etc., but the impact on the field at large. Those are things that you need to be thinking about in advance and preparing and documenting once you've planned it. Okay. So that's part of this collection of evidence over time, and not deciding at the last minute or even within a, short deadline to file a case. Likewise, publications about you and your work, media coverage, expert letters, and what has to be in those letters, and exactly what is needed for those to be, heavily weighted and to really sway the adjudicator, the one that's going to make a decision on your whole life. All of these need to be aligned with your plan, with your trajectory to open up the green card pathway for you. So that's really, really key. And this is really a key example of showing why you need to start well in advance. Do not wait till you have a couple of months before your current status is ending. If you have no choice, of course, you're going to do that. But the key is to be starting and getting help way in advance. It doesn't cost you anymore. It can only benefit you. Likewise, if you are a temporary worker, right, let's say on an H-1B or on an OPT, right, from your student F1 status, you may be at risk because of job title changes. You may be allowed to be doing something for work based on your current visa status, but not other things. So, for example, an employee on a work visa had multiple role changes without any legal updates, and not notifying the government. And so then later, when they tried to file a green card, the government flagged inconsistencies, okay? And they were going to deny the case. And so, correcting the job descriptions if they are correctable, and aligning the career progression, which is key. They're looking for that, the government. It's really, really important. Restored eligibility. And again, it may or may not be able to in your particular case, depends on your particular case situation, your history, whatever it is that you have been doing, who you've been doing it for, how you've been doing it, what the job is called, what the tasks are called. So these are, again, you need to get the advice well in advance, to be able to plan your actions, plan your strategy so that by the time comes a few months, whatever it is before, when you have to make an application, you have already got tons of evidence, you've already planned it, you've already created all of these evidence pathways, so that then you would work with an immigration law team who are going to increase it, give you advice, improve it, but you're going to have reflected for a very long time in advance. Same thing for marriage visas, and same thing for humanitarian visas. And I'm going to give you now another example of this, of losing out when you think wrongly that you have no hope. And as I mentioned, I mentioned this before, we've had people that came to us, they were twice before denied, twice, and we got them approved. Okay, that was also for a victim of a crime in the United States relating to a U visa. So a person remained without status in the United States, secretly, in fear, not leaving their home, not answering the door, because of fear of applying for a government benefit, for an immigration visa. Yet, after they became a victim of a qualifying crime, and of course, we hope you never become a victim of a crime, but if it happens, and this is documented, you're suffering substantial harm from whatever happened to you, the person became eligible for a U visa, and an approved U visa can then allow you to apply for a green card. And so with time, that opened adjustment of status opportunities to a green card and long-term protection for this person, something they didn't realize was possible until they came for immigration advice, had a case evaluation, and their strategy was clarified to them. Okay, and then they knew what to do, what to look for, what evidence to get, with all this guidance and also with help, because in those particular cases for people victims of domestic violence or any crimes or threats of crimes, there are very particular things that the government needs. And so you need very strong and experienced immigration help to guide you, to get it, to help you, to get all of these detailed pieces of evidence. It's all about the evidence. Okay, so I'm going to now answer some questions. Thank you so much, Carol, for bringing them here. All right, so I have a few. So somebody's asking, can I go from a tourist status, like a B1, B2 tourist, to a green card? Sometimes, but that depends, and it's only under specific circumstances with strict scrutiny, looking at your intent, right? Was your intent honest when you applied for the tourist visa, or if it was recently, or if it was long back? Was your intent honest when you crossed the border and passed Customs and Border Control at the airport or elsewhere? So that really, really depends in some cases, but that really depends. And again, have a case evaluation. We'll look at your case. We will give you guidance if it's worth it to do that right away, or to do a two-step strategy for getting you permanent residence in the United States if you're eligible. Does overstaying my visa destroy my chance to become a permanent resident, a green card holder? So that's an important question, and people are often asking that, and people are often in that situation. And the answer is not always. It depends. For example, if you're marrying a US citizen, you should be okay. If you're marrying a permanent resident, there are things that would need to happen first, but then you may be okay. You need to get a case evaluation specific to your situation. If you're a victim of domestic violence, whether it's in your home, whether it's a husband, a wife, a parent, a child, if you're a victim of any crime in the United States relating to threats or actual bodily harm, if you are a victim of coerced labor, meaning bad work circumstances where whatever you were told before you started the work and what happened after you started were very different, and yet you continued to work, not only because you need money, but because you were fearful, because of things said, done, maybe not said directly, this is again very, very specific, but that is also a pathway to a green card, and that's called a T visa. Also, there are certain waivers in the family cases, if you're petitioned for by a husband, a wife, a mother, or a father, that will still allow you to adjust your status to get a green card. Depends on what your particular circumstances are. And if it is a mother or a father, they would need to be either US citizens or legal permanent residents inside the United States. In certain criminal cases, in addition to mother, father, husband, and wife, for a waiver, a pardon, you may be able to do that through a US citizen child, but again, that's only for the criminal, not for the other types. Okay. Next up question. This is a new business. So somebody wants to open up a business. Can I apply for a green card while my business is new? So the answer is yes. Okay, a lot of people create businesses for visa applications as long as your business, for example, under the EB2 national interest waiver, that can allow you yourself to self-petition, or somebody can petition for you, an employer, but you don't have to rely on anybody else if you have a strong business idea that is, and can prove that it's in the national waiver that will have impact, helping the United States in the national interest, and that you yourself are well positioned to move that endeavor forward. And again, there's all kinds of evidence that needs to be thought about, that needs to be prepared, that needs to be built on, of growth in your role, in your current achievements, past achievements, job creation. And as I said, a lot of proof about how is the US going to benefit, how are you going to help any problem, improve any problem, get rid of any problem, provide new opportunities that are not there in the national interest. This is very important, this other question, which is, does the USCIS, does the government compare all my old visas and my applications that I've made in the past, even years ago? Absolutely, yes. And so that is what I talked about earlier, to do with consistency across all applications. It's a major factor in approval. Okay, so consistency means that whatever you wrote at the time was correct, in line with whatever your intentions are. We talked about intent, and that if something had changed, that now you do want to stay, that needs to be clearly documented, proven, and shown that this change happened at a particular provable time. So with all of this, and showing you that actually many times people think all is lost, it's not. I really encourage you to book a free case evaluation to map out a long-term immigration plan for you, your loved ones, your friends. It's free, and you can have a clearer understanding and picture of what you can do from a temporary option, which is a non-immigrant visa under constant stress that you're here temporarily, etc., to a legal permanent resident status, to have much more peace and to have full peace of mind to become a US citizen, if that's something that you're open to. So for anyone who is a professional watching this live, I invite you to bring your clients, your colleagues, your family members, and also any person who is in a current situation of stress, wanting to come to remain in the United States, be work authorized, have all of the benefits that you don't have in most every other place globally. Do a favor to yourself, help those that you care about, get accurate immigration advice, and make a step, commit, because you have nothing to lose and only to gain. As long as your case is evaluated, you're deemed eligible, you have only to gain if you have a strong case. Okay, so it's all about early planning so that you avoid gaps, you avoid contradictions, and so therefore you avoid denials that could have been prevented, that could have been approvals, that could be seeing you, like many, many others, living, working, and spending their lives as a permanent resident, and if they wish, also as a US citizen. So those are all the questions for now. I want to thank you very much. Don't hesitate to contact the team. If you want to book a free case evaluation, the website is relislaw.com, RELISLAW.com. And there are booking links and also the phone numbers that you can call. Thank you so much. I wish you a wonderful, wonderful rest of the week ahead. Good health, happiness, and security for you, your health, your emotional health, your physical health, and all of your loved ones.